That is some good coffee. Good morning. Welcome to the studio, and guess what? I'm late. I missed my chance to do the annual, hey, it's Amazon Prime Day, these are the 3D printing essentials you should buy. By the way, use the affiliate links in the video description below. I missed that. So instead of talking about essentials, I'm gonna talk about some tools, equipment, things I've built over the years that have made building 3D printers, using 3D printers to make things, and post-processing and assembling those things a heck of a lot easier. So some of these things you can buy, some of these you can build. I highly recommend shop around. There's no real recommended buyer for any of this stuff. Grab what's on sale when it's on sale from where you can find it. And we're gonna start off with these blocks of steel. These are 1, 2, 3 blocks. These ones you can buy, and these ones I actually made in shop class years ago. So these are hardened blocks of steel. They're called 1, 2, 3 blocks. Why are they called 1, 2, 3 blocks? Well, they're 1 inch by 2 inch by 3 inch. Very creative. They also make 2, 4, 6 blocks. Guess what size those are? Why should you get some 1, 2, 3 blocks? I mean, you could 3D print these, I mean, if you really wanted to. They are super handy to have because they are a known value and they are heavy. I know it makes no sense, but let's think about it this way. When we were building the Venture XL, that printer was so large, I couldn't use my normal layout table to square up the frame. So what I was doing was taking a 1, 2, 3 block, put a screw through one of the holes, attach it to the extrusion itself, and then that way when I come in with the other extrusion, I have a flat reference point that is fixed to ensure that I'm squaring these up properly. And you can even use multiple 1, 2, 3 blocks to ensure that you're putting stuff together squarely. They're good for referencing, they're good for lining stuff up. They're also used for simple stuff. So we're working on a helmet here, I'm sanding it, I'm painting it, but it's not sitting the way I want. Okay, well, you can just block it up with some 1, 2, 3 blocks. Again, super simple. They're heavy. You want to stop something from rolling around while glue dries. Load it up with some 1, 2, 3 blocks. Hey, it's not rolling around anymore. Hey, we're working on a Unimog. We're building a giant RC MOG kit from LDO Motors. It's like a meter long. This thing is huge. And while building our front axle here, I need it in this position for some stuff I'm working on. Well, it doesn't really balance that way. Well, grab your 1, 2, 3 blocks, boom, boom, boom. There we go. Nice and stable. 1, 2, 3 blocks are just one of those things that the longer you have them, the more you use them, the more uses you find for them. Anyone who has any sort of background in machining, CNC, tool and mold, which is my background, you know how handy these things are. So if you happen to find these on sale, used, pick them up. You'll find a use for them. And for the next thing I recommend you get, we're actually gonna have to travel to the basement. So let's head down there. Okay, so here's the scenario for you. We have our 3D printer. It's printingly right now. Everything's going great, but gas shock, who would have thought it happened? Thunderstorm rolls in, power goes out. Our printer is now disconnected from the grid. There are no magic pixies flowing to it to make it print. Now, with most modern 3D printers, it's not a huge deal. A lot of modern printers have some sort of power recovery feature built into it. It'll remember where it's at when the power goes out, and when the power comes back on, it will resume. Some of them, like Prusa printers, if the temperatures haven't dropped that much, they'll just go right into printing. You don't even have to manually resume the print. But it's not a perfect system. Every time that happens, you usually end up with some sort of defect in the print. Stuff shifts a little bit. Motors, they lock to their previous full step position. Your homing might not be the most accurate in the world. Your Z may drop ever so slightly. So every time I've relied on power resume on a 3D printer, regardless of the brand, you can always kind of tell where it happened at. It's not always a big issue, especially with printing like structural stuff, but if you're 18 hours into a 23-hour print of a very high quality, high detail model that might be even a commissioned item, you kind of don't want that defect to show up in the print itself. Also, depending on what you're printing, we're printing ABS in an enclosed chamber here. If the power goes out and that bed starts cooling off, the chamber starts cooling off, the print might shift. Stuff's gonna shift geometrically with the printer itself with thermal expansion. The print might even pop off the bed if it's not even hot anymore. So you might not even be able to resume it successfully, even if you do have the chance to just hit file resume. This printer right here, I unplugged it. How is it still printing? Well, we got ourselves a UPS. These are awesome things to have if you are serious about 3D printing, especially if you do a lot of long 3D prints or you live in an area where brownouts happen. Now, where I live in Southern Ontario, Canada here. Power outages aren't really a thing. Yeah, the odd thunderstorm might cause the lights to flicker every now and then, but that's enough to end a print on like my Vorons. None of my Vorons have power resume functionality. So if you want maximum uptime, you should probably look into getting some sort of battery backup system for your printer. Now, UPSs, they come in multiple different sizes, multiple different price points. I like buying mine from Costco. They usually have pretty good deals on some of the larger ones. I believe this one here I did get at Costco. UPSs do kind of have a finite lifespan with the battery. I believe the newer ones aren't as bad as the older ones, but that is something to kind of keep in mind. And for the record, yes, this printer is entirely running off of the UPS right now. Depending on the size of the UPS and how much power your printer draws will determine the amount of uptime you get when the power does go out. But the best power recovery feature a printer can have, in my opinion, is just the ability to ignore the power going out. And welcome back. So on the desk now, we have a heat set press. Now, if you are familiar with 3D printing, you know lately heat sets, they've been all the rage. We ain't putting hex screws in anything anymore. We're using heat sets, they're great. And you can get a cheap soldering iron off Amazon for like 10 bucks, get a proper tip, and you can put the heat sets in yourself. But once you start doing a lot of projects, a lot of builds where you have to put in a lot of heat sets, doing it by hand gets annoying. So this is a heat set press. They are simple. There are multiple different styles of these out there. This one I built myself. I believe this one's the Stealth Press. You can get kits for the hardware. You can build these out of old stuff you have. This one is essentially a keyback, a rail, and a bunch of printed parts. But one kind of thing I have in mind for a recommendation when it comes to heat set presses, buy a cheap soldering iron. Don't go buy one of these, fancy, expensive TS100s or other USB-C powered ones. Personally, I'm a fan of just the old school ones you plug into the wall. And the reason for that is some of them have an on-off switch on them. I know that's simple, but they have a nice physical on-off switch. So this one, the way I use it, I just keep it on my workbench over here. It's always plugged in. And if I need to install heat sets in anything, I just walk over, turn it on, let it heat up for a minute, and we're good to go. And also, pro tip, keep your 1, 2, 3 blocks nearby, because nothing is more annoying when installing heat sets than trying to put them in flush when you have a thing that it doesn't want to sit flat. So with your 1, 2, 3 block, you can kind of use that as a reference point to keep it square, at least on a surface that you can get at. So when you put those heat sets in, they are going in square and true. So that's just one of those things. Keep your 1, 2, 3 blocks next to your heat set press and get a heat set press. They are nice to have. Speaking of things that are just nice to have, hey, look at my mat here. This is just a cheap Walmart cutting mat, right? Get one, again, grab one on sale, get one as big as your desk, because they are nice to have because one, it keeps your desk from getting all scratched up and marred up while you're moving stuff around. 2, it keeps, chemicals, greases from getting on your desk. And 3, see this wonderful grid pattern? Guess what? You can use that for measuring. So you got to cut some belts for your 3D printer, and we need them to be 480 millimeters long. We go there, and we cut there. So get a cutting mat. It'll protect your desk, it'll keep it clean, it'll keep it organized, and then also when you do have to clean it, you just take the mat off and just wash it outside with a garden hose or something. These are just one of those cheap little things you should probably just grab when you get a chance to grab. They are infinitely handy to have. Speaking of things that are handy, working with your hands, it's rewarding, but it's also tiring, especially when you're working on big projects like suits of armor, helmets, things you gotta post-process. Guess what? Sanding sucks. I hate sanding. Get yourself a palm sander of some sort. This is just a Black & Decker mouse. I've had this for years. It was cheap. You can get replacement sanding pads really cheap online. When you are doing those big projects and you got everything covered with Bondo, you probably don't want to use this to finish it. When you're doing those first few passes, this just saves you so much time. It saves your hands, it saves your arms, it knocks down all those high edges real quick. Just get a palm sander. Again, get one when it's cheap. Doesn't really matter what brand, you'll find uses for it. Speaking of other things you're gonna find uses for, a rotary tool. Recently when we were building the MOG kit here, and by the way, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We stream 3 days a week usually on this channel, and this build is a fun build to watch, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out for that. I was a little overzealous with my automatic support settings, and there were a lot of supports and infill in areas I had to clean up. A rotary tool made very quick work of that. Now, I'm sort of lucky from my days in the tool and mold industry. I have bits for days and drawers here for my Dremel here. You don't need crazy fancy bits. You're gonna be cutting plastic. Steel's fine, you don't need carbide. And as for the Dremel itself, this is a Dremel 8280. I picked it up at Home Depot on sale, I believe, years ago. Personally, I would go for a smaller one if you have a chance, but the bigger ones have more power and the batteries tend to last longer, I find. I like battery powered ones. I don't want to be plugging stuff into a wall when I just need something for a quick job. Grab it out, turn it on, clean up what you got to clean up, put it back in the drawer, move on with your life. It's easy. They use 1/8 shank bits, which are very common, very easy to get. You will find uses for these. If you have to cut down rods for a build, just grab your cutoff wheel, throw your cutoff wheel in there. You can cut down rods, you can cut down screws if you need to make some customized screws. You will find uses for this. I mean, heck, lately when we were building a baby belt, we found some of the shafts on our stepper motors were a little too long and they were rubbing. Dremel, nice and clean, good to go. Especially when you're trying to cut hardened stuff, you want to use a cutoff wheel. You don't want to be cutting stuff by hand. It's not fun. Speaking of things that are not fun, Allen keys. Yes, Allen keys, they're awesome. We use these to put in screws. But again, when you are doing a project where you have to put in hundreds, even thousands of screws, your arms are gonna get tired, your wrists are gonna get sore. Get an electric screwdriver. This is a Fantic. I bought this at Costco years ago. I've dropped it more times than I can count. I've lost the little diffuser off the front, but guess what? It still works great. And for bits, look into getting something like this. These are Nico brand, bought them on Amazon. They're long shaft bits. So that means you can get into those tight little nooks and cranny areas. If you got to screw something in on a weird angle, you have more reach to get in there. So get an electric screwdriver. Make sure you get one that has some power. I do have smaller ones. And these little small ones, they're fine if you're building like little drones using little screws. But the moment you get above M3, they don't really have that much power. These are big enough to actually sink in screws. In fact, they're a little too powerful. So I usually run this on the lowest setting just to put the screws in. And then I go in with an Allen key or a screwdriver and properly finish the screw by hand. That way I'm ensuring that I don't over torque the screw, especially when you're screwing into plastic. That's something you got to keep in mind. Now you may be wondering, what are these boxes on my desk here? These are filament dryers and dry boxes. This is something not everyone needs. If you live in the Arizona desert where the humidity is always low and the sun's always out, you probably don't need to worry about humidity in your filaments. But if you live, in the Florida coast or along the ocean, or if you're like me in Southern Ontario, it's just humid out. Like right now in my garage, it's like 60% humidity. It gets hot out here. My air conditioner pulls like almost an entire bucket of water out during the course of a stream when it's running. So getting a filament dryer to dry your filament after it gets wet is one of those things that's nice to have. Now here's the thing. I've used a couple different brands of filament dryer. Personally, I like the Polymaker ones just for the fact that the dryer itself is a separate unit from the box. So you can dry your filament on the dryer, and then once it's dry, you can take it off, put the plugs in, and then use this as a storage box, and then use your dryer to dry more filament. So if you're not feeding from a dryer, you just want to feed from a dry box. These setups are really nice. You can also use these for other projects. I've seen people use these to heat printer chambers. These are fun little things. You can get it fun with the experiments. If you only need one or two though, maybe look into getting something like this Creality one here. Personally, not a huge fan of this one because it opens backwards, so it's kind of annoying to handle and work with. But if you only need one or two, you might as well get the all-in-one unit. But I have found for your generic PLAs, PETGs, and ABSs, ASAs, they all pretty much kind of work the same. Anyone where they rate the temperature for like 60 or lower, I've had pretty much similar experiences with them. I do have a higher temp one from Ibos that we will be unboxing and playing with in the future, the Polymetheus one, but I haven't gotten around to taking it out of the box yet because it showed up yesterday. So I haven't had a chance to set that one up yet. So having a filament dryer is nice, but by the way, you want to know the easiest way to keep your filament dry? I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Are you ready for this? Don't take it out of the wrapper till you need it. Yes, it is really cool to set up your rep rack and have an entire wall of filament at your hands ready to go and it looks all pretty. But until you need it, especially when you're stocking up on filament, keep it in the box, keep it in the dry seal bag until you need to punch that hole in there and rip it out. Because these are designed to keep filament dry. They have desiccant bags in it. So as long as they are properly vacuum sealed, they will last a long time. So keep your filament in the bag until you need it, but afterwards, if you do need to dry it, get a filament dryer. They are nice to have. Also, fun fact, some of the newer MMS units like the VVD here from Big Tree Tech, these have filament dryers built into them as well. So hey, there you go. Now, that's just some examples of some of the accoutrements and tools and things I've built over the years that have made my life a little bit easier. But that's not everything. I haven't even gone into scales, measuring tools, verniers, files, other things you can use to clean up your prints. Hey, guess what? 3D printers, they run on electricity. RC cars, they run on electricity. You're probably gonna wanna get a multimeter. Now, you don't need to go buy a Fluke, but you do want something that can check voltages, check continuity, and also, hey, a wire broke, you're probably gonna wanna get some heat shrink, buy one of these little kits that come with all the multiple sizes and colors. Got to heat up the heat shrink. Hey, you're probably going to want a heat gun. I mean, you could use a lighter if you're Neanderthal, but hey, heat guns are a little bit more refined. There's just so many things that you kind of just pick up over the years that you tend to look over and you forget. So let me know in the comments below some cool tools, tips, tricks, accessories, things you've built that have made your life a little bit easier when it comes to 3D printing. Because remember, the best part about 3D printing is when you use 3D printing and pair it with another hobby. You get some really cool cross-pollination of ideas, tools, equipment, and you end up finding some fun ways to do things in ways you've never thought you would before. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope I got some ideas across to you. Again, when you get involved in a hobby like this, especially over several years, you kind of just start acquiring stuff and accumulating stuff, and you kind of, it's good to share some of the tips, tricks, and knowledge you've accumulated. So there is way more I can go over. If you want me to cover something else, let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like the smash button, ring the bell, subscribe if you're not subscribed. I'm Taylor, Canuck Creator. I hope you learned something new today. You take care out there, wash your hands, and I will see you all in the future. Cheers.